Andy Reid and Nick Sirianni meet for the second time in Super Bowl as head coaches, with Reid winning the first time around. This is the fifth coaching rematch in Super Bowl history. In the other four occasions, the coach that won the first matchup also won the second. Noel Landry, Johnson Levy, Coughlin Belichick, Reid versus Shanahan. So, Jenks, is this trend your friend?
I'm going to say that these are some good ones. I'm going to say yes, it is my friend here, because it is hard to win a Super Bowl. And I feel like that Andy Reid has gone from being on one side of this to the other. Like, I love the Andy Reid story. I love the fact that he was in Philly for a long time and went to, 5 NFC championship games, got to 1 Super Bowl, didn't win it. Like, he had to go to Kansas City. Now he has 3. It took a long time for him to get over the hump and finally win it. And once you've won it, it makes it a lot easier. So he certainly has the advantage there. And also, he has a guy named Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback. So I'm going to say, yes, this trend is my friend. Once you've gotten that first Super Bowl and you go back to a rematch against a guy who hasn't won it or you've had success against before, I think you have a slight advantage. So I'm going to say yes.
I think this trend is your friend as well. Maybe it's not the trend that you base your handicap on, but it's one of the ingredients. Like, we always say that your handicap should be like a stew with lots of ingredients. This is one of the ingredients because it makes a lot of sense, especially when you're talking about Andy Reid. If we were talking about like some numbnuts coach that just had a great quarterback, if you're looking at, I don't want to say like Mike McCarthy with Aaron Rodgers, but do you get what I'm saying? Like, Andy Reid is regarded as a really good coach and a really good play caller and somebody who's been great on extended rest because he has more time to prepare. So I think this is one of those situations. I'm not saying that Nick Sirianni is a bad coach. I am just saying, if we're going coach versus coach here, which coach do you think is the better coach? Has to be Andy Reid. So this trend is definitely your friend.
If we're going strictly on coaching, yes, this trend is your friend. But this trend has to end at some point, and I think it happens at the big game. All right, moving on. Coming into the playoffs, the Chiefs had the first round bye while the Eagles had to play in the round 1. The Super Bowl era has had 16 prior matchups with a team having a bye playing a team without the bye. The team in the playoffs with the bye is just 4-12 straight up and is 2-13-1 against the spread. Chelsa, is this trend your friend?
I feel like this is an SAT question where it's like the bye that is shorter, and then you take the train that's 2 hours. Which train are you on? All right, so that's a lot of numbers and a lot of math. But the only math you need to know is that the Super Bowl winner has been the Chiefs the last 2 seasons. How many games have they won? So I feel like it takes a lot of qualifying to take a trend that's going against the Chiefs. I just don't believe it. This team has been, a rule breaker, a curve breaker, and they're about to do it for the 3rd time, which would be another curve breaker because we haven't seen an NFL team do this ever. So when it comes to Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Chiefs, some of these numbers, you better come with some better ones other than this, because you come at the king, you best not miss.
I just want to, first of all, are we just going to ignore the fact that Chelsea dropped a sweet numbnuts reference earlier? I thought that was very, very solid, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm not going to let that slide.
Butthead is coming up next.
I'm definitely working in that phrase. Maybe in this show later on in the week for sure. I don't think this is the case. I'm not following this trend because the Eagles are the team that could have used the extra time. Like, they needed the extra time to develop their offense, to continue to integrate their receivers, and they've had health issues as well at center with Jalen Hurts, who is going to be healthier than he's been in a long time. And it's like Chelsea mentioned, like, the Chiefs are already there. They don't need any extra help. They're already at their ceiling. And you can't really put the Chiefs in a box. You can't frame a narrative around them because they just keep breaking those narratives. So I'm not fading Kansas City based on them having a bye and based on previous teams not having success in that spot. So I'm going to say, no, this trend is not my friend, numbnuts.
Numbnuts.
Wow, I thought we were friends, Jenks.
Sorry, Double D. I had to get it in. Sorry about that. I had to get it in.
No, I love this trend. I absolutely think the Eagles are going to win the big game. I think the X factor for me is Saquon Barkley. So yes, this trend is my friend. All right, coming up on the last one, Kansas City enters the Super Bowl with a slightly better straight-up winning percentage, 89.5%, than the Eagles at 85% this season. In recent history, that hasn't boded well for the Chiefs side, since the team with the better winning percentage is 1-6 ATS in the Super Bowl since 2003. Is this trend your friend, Jenks?
Normally, I would say yes, because underdogs, to your point, Double D, because I know you like the Eagles here, underdogs in the Super Bowl in the last 17 big games are 12-5 against the number. But again, this kind of goes back to what we were saying in the previous question, which is the Chiefs just don't really follow any. I mean, yes, there are trends involved with the Chiefs, but every time you try to fit the Chiefs in a box, or every time you try to paint them in a corner and say, oh, look at this trend, they're like, yeah, we're the Chiefs. There's a reason why they're back here getting ready to win 3 straight. Every time we think, oh, this is the year where they're just not ready, the offense isn't quite as explosive as we've seen. Well, what do? They score as many points as they have all season, or they score as many points as they have all season in the first half, like they did against the Bills. So, yeah, the Chiefs, this might not look good for them on paper, but as we always say, really hard to face Kansas City. I will say, no, this trend is not my friend.
I would say normally whenever you have a trend that's like 1-16 ATS, like that means something. That is a sizable, sample size, and obviously only one ATS winner. But if you look at the last 5 Super Bowls, the Chiefs have been in 3 of them, and they've won 2 of them, in that stretch. And so that's 2 of your underdog results. The last 2 Super Bowls, Kansas City has been the underdog, and they've won both of them. So when you're looking at this number, you say, well, the underdogs have been great. Well, Kansas City and this exact team almost has been the case there. And plus, when we're talking about a spread of 1.5, maybe the spread matters, and maybe I'm wrong. We get a 1-point final score, but it just feels like it's not as much of a factor. If we had a spread closer to 3, I'd be all over, the Eagles getting points here. But I feel like spread and ATS records matter a little less when the spread's only 1.5.